This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signal Symposium 2024, thanks to our media partner Highways News, and sponsored by AGD Systems, Four-Way Consulting, Traffic Group Signals, Smart Micro UK, TRL Software, PTV Group, Census Networks, and Starling Technologies.
So I work for UrbanTide. I work for another organisation as well. But actually what I'm here to do is to talk about the importance of data. We've talked an awful lot about data over the last 2 days, and everybody has their view, everybody has a definition, everybody has their beliefs and understandings and opinions. If that's not correct, then I don't know what is. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about some insights. And I like to think that actually we've got a little bit of a different view on data and the importance of data. And hopefully that comes through the next few slides. I realise I'm the last person, so I shall crack on. Is it up or down? Which one do I do? Right, there we go. Okay, so UrbanTide, we were founded in 2015. We're founded out of the 2012 Smart City programme in IT in Glasgow. The founders learned a lot about integrating data from different data sources, and therefore UrbanTide came along. We're really about the importance of unlocking the value of data. And as I've just said, that depends on who you are to what's important and what view you have on that. And it's really interesting, some of the presentations that we've just seen, an awful lot of data described in different ways, different values. And actually, if you're an engineer and a data science, maybe that's the view of data that you have. But actually, if you're a politician or you're on the policy side, perhaps your view of data will be very different. And the way you actually see and understand what it's actually showing you will be quite different. When we talk about sustainable transport, UK government, and I think this is the same of the existing government, but it was the same for the old government, want to have a target of 50% of urban trips by active travel by 2030. And we're actually on target to do that. I think actually we might be slightly ahead, certainly for the last 1 or 2 miles. So that's a really positive outlook as far as sustainable travel goes. We'd like to take it further, obviously. We'd like it to be more. Certainly we've relieved some of the congestion, which actually make our jobs in traffic engineering a lot healthier and happier and easier. 3 billion. Now, I'm not too sure where you benchmark the 3 billion from, but I'll just leave it as some money has been invested in active travel. And will continue to be invested in active travel till 2025. It might well have changed, it might well change again, but that's what politics does, isn't it? So it's a good benchmark, it just doesn't tell you the reference of what date I took that date from. But I think importantly, for every pound you invest in active travel, there's a big benefit back. So actually, why are we not doing it more? And why is whichever government is in place not doing more as well? So I think that's a positive lesson to learn. So there's some positives from this. So the problem with sustainable transport opportunities and the market is that it's very difficult to actually benchmark the benefits. And we've talked about benefits in some of the presentations over the last couple of days, and we'll continue to talk about more. So I think the point of this presentation is actually, well, how do we actually show the benefit of active travel? How do we actually benchmark it? How do we actually evidence it? If you're from a strategic transport modelling platform basis, you probably don't actually have any data on active travel in there. It's all about the vehicle. It's all about the car or the lorry, not about active travel. In fact, I think I presented about LC whips 2 years ago when I was with the previous organisation at JCT. And I talked about the process of demand data going into a robust LC whip process. But even the LC whip process from DfT doesn't mandate you to actually do monitoring and evaluation. So all this money that's going into active travel schemes, there's no mechanism for you to, or legal mechanism for you to actually say, it actually benefited to us. So monitoring and evaluation is fundamental to reinvestment because if you don't have a strategic transport model that talks about cycling or active travel data, and you don't have monitoring and evaluation data for active travel, how do we know whether the money that we've invested is actually making a difference other than anecdotal? So did that scheme really make that intended benefit? So I think you know where I'm coming from. It's quite simple. Hopefully this presentation is the last one, was meant to be a simple and a bit of a light sort of look. So we developed UMove, It's monitoring of all modes, but I'm really going to focus on active travel today. We've got 19 different APIs as far as data ingestion goes. We've got a thorough pipeline. We take all of our customers on a journey. We start with the ones that are modern detectors, obviously generally have a good structured API. The data is there. But guess what? We've got some legacy equipment out there as well. And sometimes the communication methods aren't there. Sometimes what the authorities actually think are counting data, for some reason, whether there's some corruption, it's not maintained as well. And so there's a data maturity process of a conversation going on that as well. But for our experience of that, we've got a rigorous pipeline of ingested data that goes into our platform. We've got some robust data validation rules. The reason why we do all this is because it's important, because actually quite different from a lot of the systems we've talked about. The systems we've talked about over the last 2 days are very much systems. So if the information, the detector information goes wrong into a traffic control mechanism, then the public don't see it. They might see the errors in the traffic control, but they don't actually see the data, or they don't dispute the data. They just dispute the whole process. But actually, when you're displaying data for data and evaluation and in a public way, if there's a spike that's an anomaly, then actually it becomes really obvious. So the whole point on what I'm talking about there is that actually we need to have some rules in place that make sure that actually our data quality is fit for the different purpose that I'm going to be talking about, which is that public consumption and evaluation. But it still goes through all the system type approach. So let's show some results, because that's really what the paper was about. Why is this important? So we have a contract with Cycling Scotland, where we take every single authority in Scotland, 32 authorities. We ingest all of their active travel counters, which is 800 sites, 200 annual sites as well. So it's not just real-time information, but actual annualized traffic counts as well we digest. We bring that into one platform, and then we can then show results. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But Glasgow have shown that, and so this was a release from Cycling Scotland to show that actually on a 2.5 kilometre two-way on-street cycle path, there was an increase in journeys. And this is a city where not many people are cycling. So if we can then start to move more people towards active travel, then we all get the benefits, even if we're in a car, a bus, or on active transport, active travel. And in Edinburgh, we've seen a similar thing as well. So I think the point here is that these are insights that actually the data platform, the data dashboard that we have provides us. These are insights that are then actually transposed into a public-facing document that go back to policy. But it's still statistical data that comes from what we know and love, which is traffic counting information, but all the way up to the top, out to public. So the platform is available. Anybody can go there. You can query every single traffic counting site for active travel across the whole of Scotland. It's open. It's opening up data to anybody and everybody, but it's opening up in a way that anybody can actually see and view the data. You don't have to be a data scientist. You don't have to understand how Python is to get some information out of it. You can just go there. So if you just do Google and you do National Monitoring Framework, Cycling Scotland, you'll be able to find that. You'll be able to get the data. What you'll see is annualized daily counts. If you want to pick on a site, download the data, you'll get much more richer data behind it. So we're aggregating on the fly as well. But Cycling Scotland are really on a mission to actually show that the investment that's being made in Scotland is making a benefit as far as active travel. So they're not just doing these single 2 releases about a one scheme. What they're now doing is they're now pushing that actually nationwide there's a benefit. So they're doing the top 20 sites and showing the increase from one year to the next. They're doing that extra bit of analysis and publication of the improvement to this. So it's really generating a bit of traction about actually what engineering is making a difference to the way people travel and the behaviour and the perception of transport across the nation. So very quickly, this is the interface. So if you go there, you'll see that there's blue bubbles on the left-hand side, the map view. That shows how many counting locations are within that. If you click on that, then it goes to how many locations in that area, and you zoom in, and you go all the way through down to street-level counting data. And the map changes to a 3D view when you get into the locality, which is really nice because actually active travel relates to the environment you're in, even more so than the road. You don't care whether you're going up a hill in a car, but you do if you're on a bike. And you'll see there's a nice graph. You see at the top there, we've got 110 sites, 828 of them are real-time, 182 of those static sites. So again, we're mixing different data sources here. We're mixing real-time versus annualized studies, which again is nice. We don't we don't discriminate about where the data comes from. But what we do is we take data in from different systems, we then make it data, and then we then transpose it to the point that we're using it for. So this is the next part of the development. So I will just say is that we're just doing an update to the release, so we're going to a new version of the interface. And so some of this stuff will either, if it's not there today, it will be there like in the next week, week and a half. So what we've got here is we've got a comparison between February 2024, March 2024, and March 2023. This is what happens if you've got varifocals. You can't see little screens. But you'll see that you've got a pattern, which is the main graph, and then at the bottom here is we've got the hourly profile through the day. So there's a lot of information there. But again, I'm not a data science, don't supposed to be an engineer, but I can understand what's actually happening. On the right-hand side, what we're doing is we're then doing, again, comparisons. So this is a yearly change. And even more so, I think this has got some modes as well. So this is where we've got an annualized count, where we've got the different modes. We're actually showing the modal split as well. And it's consistency across all locations. So this, I think, is really nice. Bearing in mind it's a national contract. So Cycling Scotland want to actually understand the total across the whole of Scotland. They also want to understand the regional level. They want to understand the authority level, and they want to understand the road level as well. So literally just by clicking on the interface and going through those, I get the same data all the way through, and it just adds up nicely. And again, no data science, no expertise required other than a very simple to use interface. I'm really pushing that highly purely because I think that's really important for us as an industry, because the more that we can actually unlock and show the value of this data, the stuff that we're doing and knowing and looking at each daily, as soon as we can make that much more usable for people, then actually people above, the policymakers, the bean counters, the people that have got the money, hopefully can start to see the difference and the benefits of what you're doing. And this goes back all the way through to active travel, all the way through to all modes. So it's really important to have that monitoring evaluation. I've got 2 more slides, I think. So a monitoring evaluation is not just about demand monitoring. So we're doing something with Cestrans, which is one of the regions in Scotland. And what we're doing there is we're looking at programs. It's a programs and place dashboard. So it's looking at, well, okay, where have I spent the money? What have I spent it? What areas have I spent it on? And then what have I spent it on? And then literally just by geocoding that, and it really is quite simple. We've just geocoded that within our platform. All of a sudden, we've got a geospatial view that means, again, using the same thing, where there's 12, we go into the 12, it then gives us the data of what's behind that. It shows that we can start to see where the investment's being made. So that's great, because we can show that we've got spread around the country or the area. But it also shows what we spent it on. And then what we'll then link that to, eventually, is to the actual demand data, what's actually happening on the road. So we can start to see that actually if we invest in Scheme A, Scheme B, Scheme D, then we can start to see, well, did it make a difference to the cycling in that area? Did actually active travel make a difference? So you can start to see, well, actually, it's not just about the travel demand, it is also about the economic data that we've done on there as well. And it could be other data sets that we go. And that's, again, which shows we don't just care about one type of data. We don't discriminate against data. We make more from bringing that data together. So this is all very good. I've really focused. I'm nearly there. That's all about monitoring evaluation. It's all about active travel. But there's one part. It's a circular economy here. Because if we go back to the start, when I'm planning my scheme, I generally start with demand data. Hang on, I've now got a nice rich data set of what's actually happening right now. And then how I can improve that if I do a new scheme. Obviously, as I add more devices and more counters, then I get a more richness of the data sets, and I can bring other data information in. But if you're doing a scheme, generally it's not just about demand data, is it? What else is happening on the street? What am I sharing my curb space with? So we're working on a project right now where we're bringing in Appiway's digital TRO data. So now we've got an overlay of the curbside restrictions on the roadside. We've got bus data coming in, and we've got active travel demand data that's happened in the past. We bring all of those together. So if I'm thinking, oh, I want to put a cycle lane, a cycle scheme in down particular road A, but I've got 4 or 5 parking laybys that have got legal definitions for whatever reason, or I've got a bus stop. I need to know that information. I don't want to have to go and hunt and find it all the way back. I want it all in one place, because actually that then builds a circular economy as far as my process goes for making investment in active travel much better. The presentation has been about active travel. It doesn't matter, it can be all modes. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight into what we're up to. Hopefully it shows data can be showed in a different way. And thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. So the final round of questions. Sure, you must. Oh, there we go in the middle here.
You know when you're presenting and you you catch someone's eye and they're either interested in talking to you or they've got a question. What's your question, sir?
Hi, thanks, Gavin. That was really interesting. Andy Barker from Active Travel England.
Excellent.
Is this coming to England?
Chris Stewart is talking to us, but has been talking to us. He's a very busy man. But yes, and your CEO knows about us as well. And your Director of Planning knows about planning policy. I can't remember his name. Gareth?
Graham.
Graham, yeah. I've spoken to all 3 of them. They're very keen. We've actually just got T-Rig funding to do basically some algorithms with I think it's Edinburgh University, about, I wouldn't say propensity to cycle, but basically what are the best routes to choose and use. So a route choice for cycling as well. So it's all coming together. But yes, we are talking to you. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like a bit more pace behind it. Perhaps move into top gear.
Send that message back to Hick.
Yeah. He spammed me this morning on LinkedIn.
Okay, further questions?
I think they're slightly ahead in what they're doing. And this is really important because actually we have got a new government and they're all about mission dashboards, right? They like the idea of, when they first came out, it was all about what's the mission? We want to see some activity. We want to see some purpose. We want to see some movement. This is what mission dashboards is. It's displaying data in a completely, sorry, I know I'm repetitive, but it is. I'm enthusiastic about it. I've been in the industry long enough that data has got so many purposes, be it planning, be it traffic control or whatever. This is nice because it really does illustrate the benefit and the gain and the long-term trend. It goes back to 3 or 4 years now that we've got this data coming through as well. So it's starting to build up a nice historical view.
Okay, do we have further questions or comments? If not, if we can have a final round of applause for Gavin.